For everyday Canadians, housing has become unaffordable. The cost of living is just crushing so many families, and there's a job scarcity. But for many more, we're looking around and we're seeing temporary foreign workers and international students fully employed in jobs that were once held by Canadians. And naturally, so many have the question of what's going on. And typically, I look to Ottawa for our immigration policy and try to unpack what exactly our federal government is doing. But also, there are policies that our provinces are doing that may surprise you. And in this video, I'm going to unpack that. But before I do, hi everyone, my name is Christopher Balkaran. I explore some of the biggest topics affecting Canadians and the world with genuine curiosity because this is exactly what we need today. I believe these big topics need more justice to be done, more viewpoints to be shared, because we need this now more than ever before. So if you want more thoughtful and engaging content that won't get you polarized, click that like button, hit subscribe, let the algorithm know we need more of this type of thoughtful dialogue more than ever, especially now. Let's start with British Columbia, where the housing costs probably dwarf anywhere else in the entire nation. British Columbia has focused specifically on supporting temporary foreign workers and international students. In fact, in 2023, it boosted funding for its settlement services from $6 million a year to approximately $25 million per year. And this is not for economic immigrants or permanent residents. This is actually specifically for temporary foreign workers and international students. This includes housing support, resume coaching, helping to find jobs, all specifically for TFWs and international students. I wasn't able to find a one-for-one comparator between that stat of 25 million for regular Canadian citizens living in BC. So I hope that there is parallel programs specifically for citizens. I'm sure there are. But here's something else that's interesting. British Columbia has offered up to $25,000 in incentives for internationally trained nurses to come fill critical jobs inside the emergency rooms and other areas of most hospitals. This is where the data gets a bit wonky because it's not clear to me where those gaps in employment exist and why Canadian citizens aren't applying to them. You'd think that the province would say, hey, we have some gaps in these specific sectors and we're looking for nurses to fill them. I'm hoping that they are, and then the last resort is that they're going abroad, I hope. But regardless, BC has made it known that it is going abroad for nurses. In fact, it's actually doing campaigns in the UK and other countries to attract internationally trained nurses to fill these critical gaps. Here's also something that's interesting. In July 2024, the province passed the International Credentials Recognition Act. It removed the requirement for Canadian work experience, and this is actually very important. It's been a long issue that foreigners come to Canada, they were recognized in their home country for being a nurse, an engineer, a teacher, but those credentials don't transfer over to Canada. There's some type of retraining that's necessary. Well, BC fast-tracked that. I don't know if retraining is needed under this act, but now you don't need Canadian experience. You can come with your foreign credentials and be fast-tracked into your profession. Now, this marks a very big shift because for Canadians, we still need to go to school. We still need to obtain our licenses to operate in the professions that we want to. But for newcomers, you can now transition to Canadian professional jobs much more easier in BC. And if you think that's bold, wait till you hear about Alberta. Alberta is actually trying to figure out more and more direct pipelines, no pun, for temporary foreign workers and internationals. In fact, there's the Rural Renewal Stream, which allows small towns to directly hire foreign workers. And I believe the stream also allows a fast track to permanent residency. And so again, these are jobs that, quote, Canadians aren't filling, but there's not enough data for me to actually say that with validity. There needs to be more data to show that Canadians aren't applying for these jobs. To me, that seems a bit wonky because I would assume most Canadians would be applying for these jobs, especially in small towns where there aren't many opportunities as it is. There's also accelerated pathways in tourism and IT to attract foreign workers specific to those sectors to come to Alberta and have a fast-tracked way to permanent residency as well. And similar to BC, Alberta also passed the Fair Registration Practices Act, which speeds up the review of international credentials to be then used in Alberta. Now, of course, I think most Canadians would feel some form of empathy for an engineer trained abroad and now has to be retrained in Canada, especially when we need engineers. I 100% agree with that. I just don't know why there is this assumption that Canadians are being passed over. That's the piece that keeps recurring throughout this data that I'm researching. But then we get to Ontario, and it's a totally different game in Ontario. For one, we've doubled the number of international student seats here up to, I think, 20,000, over 20,000 international student seats. That's more than any other province. And I could be wrong, so I'm going to keep fact checking this, but international master's and PhD graduates can now be fast-tracked to permanent residency without a job. I need to know more about this, but there are some fast-tracked pipelines specific to master's and PhD graduates that Ontario is deploying. We've also expanded the number of jobs that can accept temporary foreign workers and international students. Truck drivers, construction laborers, these were typically the jobs for TFWs, but now it's expanded to, I believe, over 50 different types of jobs, including like teaching assistants. They all are now eligible for temporary foreign workers. This is a major change. And we're letting in more international students in the STEM fields, IT and tech, the exact areas where Canadians who are in those programs are struggling to find jobs. Similar to BC, we are also making sure that we're attracting nurses from abroad. In some cases, I believe, we're allowing more internationally trained nurses to continue their nursing without completing their exams. And so that's something that's a major shift for Ontario and for Canada as well. We've also removed, similar to other provinces, Canadian work experience. And that again is a big change and a big shift, and perhaps explains why there are so many temporary foreign workers and international students. So why did I do this video? It's because BC, Alberta, and Ontario have taken immigration by the bullhorns and are really charting their own path. But what's interesting to me is this path prioritizes temporary foreign workers, international students over Canadian citizens. The amount of pipelines that are being created, the amount of policies that are being enacted and legislation that's being enacted that facilitates more temporary foreign workers and international students is a cause for concern, especially with high youth unemployment around 15%, regular Canadians looking for work, and seeing temporary foreign workers in literally every sector. I can imagine that this is destabilizing many Canadians and what they think of as the way forward. And this should be a national conversation. There's a lot of policies and legislation that's happening without anyone really talking about it on a national scale. So maybe this is the place to do this, right here on YouTube. Maybe we should be engaging in what exactly we want from our country and what we want from our governments and what we don't want. So drop a comment in the comment section below. Tell me precisely what you want to see from your government, what you want to make sure that Canadians are being protected and their jobs are being protected, and maybe, just maybe, there should be a priority list for Canadian citizens to be chosen first before a temporary foreign worker or international student. I don't know if such a policy exists, and this is something that could be enacted. As always, folks, I enjoy these conversations, so hit that like button, definitely subscribe, but before you leave, check out these other videos that might surprise you about immigration. This one region sends the majority of international students from India. Why? Or check out my other video on who really benefits from international students and temporary foreign workers. Or my other video on why half of Canada's international students come from India. Thanks everyone, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one.